what does progress really mean to you? We usually picture things like, new schools, paved roads, electricity, but what if all that progress comes at a truly terrible cost? Today, we're diving into a powerful short story from rural India that's going to make us ask who really ends up paying the price for so-called development.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story takes place in a village called Sundarapalam, and on the surface, this place is the absolute poster child for a modern, ideal Indian village.
I mean, look at this list. It's got all the modern amenities you could hope for. A high school, a hospital, good roads connected to the main highway, power from the national grid, even a library. It seems like the perfect model of success, all built on this idea of mutual cooperation.
The narrator of the story, Yagnam, just nails it with this line. It really paints a picture, doesn't it? Sundarapalam stands out as this shining example, this well-bred place surrounded by other, poorer villages that are struggling to get by.
But of course, things are never that simple. As we're about to see, that perfect-looking surface is hiding a really deep, really painful reality for about half the people who live there. That harmony, yeah, it's not what it seems.
So what causes this perfect image to finally crack? Well, it all starts with something that sounds pretty ordinary, a little dispute over paying back a loan. But trust me, this is about way more than just money.
The conflict is between these two men right here. On one side, you've got Gopana. He's an upper-caste landowner. And on the other, there's Appala Ramudu, who is the respected leader of the Malla community. They're considered a lower caste and are pretty much the village's entire labor force. This little argument over a loan just blows the lid off all the simmering tensions between class and caste.
And this is absolutely crucial. The story's original title in Telugu is Yagnam. In English, that word translates to the sacrifice. I want you to hold on to that word because it is the key to understanding the profound, tragic human cost at the very heart of this village's progress. All right, so let's pull back the curtain on Sundarapalam. Let's really look at the two completely different worlds that exist inside this one supposedly ideal village. And wow, when you put it side by side like this, the contrast is just staggering. On one side, you have the upper-caste landowners. They're living comfortable lives. They have free time to sit around and talk about science, politics, even movies. And on the other side, the Mallas, who, as the story puts it, work without even knowing what leisure is. This quote from the narrator, man, it just hits you right in the gut. It paints such a vivid, physical picture of their struggle. It's not just work. It is relentless, back-breaking toil, day in and day out, under the hot sun. This is the engine that actually powers the village's prosperity, but it's completely invisible to the people enjoying all that leisure time.
So you gotta ask, right? How did such a massive gap open up in a place that was supposedly built on harmony and cooperation? Well, the head of the Malla community, Appala Ramudu, he gives us the answer by taking us through their history.
This timeline just lays out the tragedy, step by painful step. Before all this so-called development, the Mallas were doing just fine. They were self-sufficient, they owned their own land, they were prosperous. But then came commercial crops, which got them trapped in debt. After that, industrialization rolled in, and machines destroyed their small home-based industries and took their jobs. Every single step of progress for the village was a huge step backward for them until they lost everything and became essentially bonded laborers.
Appala Ramudu, he remembers how things used to be. He talks about how the women in his community looked like Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, all adorned with gold. This wasn't some myth, this was their reality. And then he says something that is just utterly heartbreaking. Our gold and silver got widowed. What an unbelievably powerful and poetic way to describe total ruin. Their wealth wasn't just lost, it was killed, leaving them completely bereft. You see, this history of loss, it isn't just a string of bad luck. It all builds up into a system that's impossible to escape. This is a trap, and it's here that we start to see the true sacrifice being made in Sundarapalam. And the trap is this vicious cycle of debt. It's brutal. The Mallas have to take a loan just to get by, just to survive. But the interest rates are totally unregulated, and they spiral out of control. Before they know it, the debt is impossible to pay back. And they and their children and their children's children are locked into a lifetime of servitude. Appala Ramudu just boils it all down to this one devastating sentence. His people do all the work, all the toiling, but all the benefit, all the enjoyment, that goes to the person who gave the loan. The system is literally designed for one group to work and the other to profit.
And here's where the irony of development becomes so incredibly painful. Sure, a high school gets built, but the Mala kids can't go. Why? Because, as Apalamudu thinks, you can't worry about school when your stomach is burning with hunger. Those new roads and that new electricity? That's not for them. That's for the machines and the educated coolies who are replacing them. Every single piece of progress just makes their skills more useless, pushing them further and further to the edge. All this pain, all this injustice, it's all building towards a final climax where Apalamudu's family is forced to make an unbearable choice. A choice that finally reveals the true, horrifying meaning of that title, the sacrifice.
Apalamudu's son, Sitaramudu, he looks at the future and he sees only one way to save his own young son from the same inescapable fate, from that same life sentence of debt and servitude. He kills him. That is the Yagnam, the ultimate unthinkable sacrifice made just to escape a system that offers absolutely no hope.
That shocking act just forces us to zoom out and ask the huge question that this whole story is built around. What is real development anyway?
And this wasn't an accident. The author, Kalipitnam Ramarao, said himself that his whole point was to show exactly this, how these big, top-down government development plans often ended up taking property and livelihoods away from the most vulnerable people in society.
And that leads us to the story's powerful, unavoidable conclusion. If development doesn't help everyone, if it makes some people prosperous by literally destroying the lives of others, then it's not progress. It's not progress at all. It's just a violent transfer of wealth from the powerless to the powerful.
So the story of Sundarapalam leaves us with a really haunting question to think about in our own lives. When we look around at all the progress and comfort we enjoy, we have to ask ourselves, whose sacrifice is it all built on?